Recently, I've made a program called Make for Windows. Make is a program that is usually used for Linux, on Linux, and it's made for making other programs, usually for compiling C++ code, but it can be used for other programming languages. So I've made a version for Windows because there were a few. They were like there was a version on Cygwin that you could use, but then you need to like have whole Cygwin and whole Linux emulation, and there are a few other versions, but they also all of them kind of emulate whole Linux system. But I wanted to have like a version that will be just for Windows, so I've made that. Okay, so how does it work? So let's say that you have a directory and you have a C++ file, mine.cpp. Something like this. It just prints hello world on the screen. So when you wanted to compile that, turn it into the executable program, then you can use whatever compiler you have installed on your system. For default, there's nothing. So program.exe and it compile. So now we have program.exe and we can run it. Now that alone is a lot of typing. Like we need to type UCC mine.cpp program.exe. And it will be easier to type just type something easy, right? Like for example, make. Okay, so how does make work? How to make it work? Let's delete that for now. And the make works in a way that you create a file called makefile. So let's create that. Okay, so we have an empty file, and in there we type the way you configure that is you type the name that you want to name the file that you want to create. For example, and then you type and on the next line with the tab is very important here. You type the command that you want to use in order to create that. You see, cpp out program.exe. Okay. So now when you are in the command line, you just type make program.exe and the make will run the command. You can see over here that this is the command that make have executed, and we have our program. Yeah, in this over here you don't put the slash before the executing the file. Okay, so that worked. Over here you can type files that are required for this command to work. For example, mine.cpp. That will tell make that in order to create this file, we need this file. Well, why is it important? Well, first of all, if it's already created, if the program.exe is already created, then you don't need to run this command unless something have changed in this file, in mine.cpp. So over here, if I type make again, it says that program.exe is already created. There's no need to do anything because it's already up to date. But if we change that thing, and there's some change now. Now, if we type make, it compiled that because it detects that the main.cpp is newer than program.exe and it needs to update it. So it will run this command. When you're making a project in C++, you're probably gonna have few files. So let's create another file. Full CPP. And let's put some function here. Return one. And let's create .h. Yep. And if we .h, let's include it here. And let's use our function. Okay. And so now, in order to compile this, it's getting more complicated because we need to compile main.cpp, foo.cpp, and then link them all together into the program.exe. So by doing this manually, we could do it like this. cc.c main.cpp out main.out. And main.out have been created. Now let's compile foo.cpp. We have foo.o, and now let's link them all together. Okay, so program 2 exec have been created. And it works. So now main can access function from foo. But you could see that is a lot of typing. So we could those are 3 different commands in order to create this file. So now we could use make to make it faster. So the program.exe, in order to create that, let's make another one. So program2.exe require main.o and foo.o. And we created by this main gcc main.o foo.o /o program2.exe. And now we need to tell it how to create main.o and foo.o. So main.o require main.cpp and foo.h. And we created by typing gcc c -c main.cpp main.o. And foo.o create first it require foo.cpp and foo.h. So if any of those files will change, we need to rerun this command. gcc c foo.cpp o foo.o. Okay. So now, let's see, let's delete those files and let's test make. And it worked. It executed those three commands. And let's see what kind of files we have. We have program2.exe, and it works. So now, let's try to modify some file. Let's say we modify this to be 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. And now let's make now. And you could see that it didn't change mine.o because there was no need to change it, because there was no change it that nothing have changed in this. However, foo was changed, so foo.o need to be recreated, and therefore program2.exe have to be recreated. Usually when you work on a project, you create only one file like this, program2.exe or project.exe or wherever it is. You just create one file, and it's useful to have it as default, so I don't need to type like make program.exe. It will be nice to just type make. So how do we do that? There's a program, there's a kind of non-existing file called all, and this is a default one, unless it's not existent, unless you create a file called all without any extension. But just don't do that. So we have all, and we could say that it requires program.exe. So now, when we call make without any arguments, it's gonna say that it requires program2.exe, and that's gonna run all the commands that we need. Let's test that. Yep, everything is up to date. So, but you could see that it did try to run those commands. You could see that usually for each C++ file there would be corresponding O file. And so we could make a default version of that. So we could say O. So any file that we try to make with the O extension will require a CPP file with the same name but different file extension, and then it's gonna call gcc theme. Then it's gonna, over here we need to put the file name of the CPP file, which we could do like this, and O, and now we need the .o file. So there are few built-in variables that we could use to automate some things. So every time when in a comment you put $ and Shift-6, then it's gonna put all the requirements into this command. If you put $ and @ symbol, that is gonna be the file replaced by the file name of the thing that the file that we are currently building. So we no longer need that, but the whole thing will still work. Let's try to delete all the files and build them again. And you could see it did work. There is one thing over here that you need to be worried about, because you see that mine.cpp and foo.cpp use foo.h, and we didn't include that here at all. So if we change foo.cpp, then that's not gonna work. Nothing changed, but it should. Actually, both files and the linking of program to.exe should be rerun, but it wasn't. How can we fix that? Well, we could say like this, that every single file in the project include that, and then instead of Shift 6, we could use lower symbol, and that is a variable that will include only the first file in all requirements. So let's test that. And we could see it did recompile now. Fortunately, there's no one easy solution to this problem, because Make is language independent. That means you could use Make to work with C++ or with PHP or with JavaScript or with Bash or with wherever you want. And because of that, Make doesn't know anything about the language that you use. So it cannot open mine.cpp and see that it includes foo.h. So the possible solution is either to type it manually in Makefile, or to create a script which will create a Makefile for you. Let's delete all of that again. Now, we are testing a lot of things, and you could see that a lot of times I am removing all the files. So we could make a rule for that. Again, that's another non-existing file. And so every time we type make clean, it's gonna execute those commands. So what that should be. Let's remove O, foo.o, program. Let's test that. Okay, it's already deleted, so it will delete that. I have the RM version for Windows on my system, that's why it will work. On your machine, the RM command will not work unless you have it as well. You could use Windows. So far, that works exactly as on Linux. The Linux version have exactly the same commands and built-in variables. However, I noticed that a lot of time there's a lot of typing of those .o files. So I would like to get rid of that, because well, it's easy to miss one, and I have a lot of C++ files in my projects. So what I put here is I could put start.o, and over here we need to put the requirements. Well, so the Shift S. So, and that works only on my version of my Make. So that thing works only on my version of Make. So that thing is gonna go through all the O files that either exist on your system or have the rule to be built. And since we have the rule for any O file or to build using any CPP file, what my version of Make gonna do is it's gonna go through all the CPP files in the working directory, create O files for that, then put the old files in the requirements of program2.exe, And then it's gonna put all of that in this command during linking. Okay, so let's test that. Boom, it works. Okay, so I'm gonna put in a video description link to download my version of Make if you are interested. And I'm also gonna put a link to the repository if you wanna read the source code. Thank you.